What happens when a U.S. congresswoman unexpectedly praises the president of a small West African nation on the global stage? What follows is not just a political headline, but a human story that makes you pause. This is the story of Ibrahim Traoré, Africa's youngest president, who wasn't seeking applause but received it anyway. His answer? It resonated worldwide. From the halls of Congress to the dusty roads of Burkina Faso, this is a story of dignity, sovereignty, and the power of being seen. At its heart, a quiet man with dusty shoes and a nation behind him. It began not with a roar, but a sudden jolt. In his office in Ouagadougou, President Ibrahim Traoré was immersed in land reform data, metrics on soil regeneration, rural migration. Focused on the quiet work of building from within, he was far from the global spotlight. A sharp knock. Marie, his chief assistant, burst in, eyes wide, tablet screen aglow. "Mr. President, you need to see this, right now!" Traoré looked up, eyebrows raised. "Marie? What is it?" "It's Jasmine Crockett," she said, placing the tablet before him. "In the U.S. Congress. She mentioned you. By name." A pause hung in the air. Jasmine Crockett, a vocal U.S. congresswoman, rarely speaking on African leadership publicly. Intrigued, Traoré pressed play. Jasmine stood at the podium, her voice cutting through the usual political noise. "Today," she stated, "I want to talk about real leadership. It doesn't always wear a suit, speak English, or sit in Washington, D.C. The chamber quieted. "I want to speak about a man leading one of the most inspiring transformations I've seen. President Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso." Traoré's expression remained unreadable, eyes fixed on the screen. "While many talk about sovereignty as a slogan," Crockett continued, "he lives it as a policy. He has rejected imported models and is building local systems. He reminds us, Africa doesn't need to be saved. It needs to be respected." Silence in the room. Traoré slowly set the tablet down. He looked out the window at the bustling courtyard, children off to school, staff carrying supplies for rural delivery. "This changes everything," he murmured, almost to himself. Marie, who had seen him through crises, spoke softly. "The world is watching, sir." He finally turned to her, a fire returning to his eyes. "It's not about me, Marie. It's about what we're building." She sees what so many refuse to acknowledge. His voice grew firm. "Africa's future is a vision to be lived. Now we prove her right." "What should we do?" Marie asked. "We respond," Traoré said instantly. "With gratitude, not pride. But first, make it clear. We are not a miracle. We are a movement." The clip went viral instantly. In Washington, Crockett's speech sparked tense debate. Across Africa, it was seismic. Burkina Faso, typically in headlines only for crisis, was now a symbol of governance rooted in dignity. Traoré watched the rest of the speech. Crockett spoke of his clarity, courage, and conviction, showing that development doesn't have to look like dependency. It can look like self-determination. She held up papers, voice shaking slightly. "We must stop talking about Africa as a problem to solve," she declared, "and start listening to African leaders who are solving problems their way." Her final words hit hard. President Traoré isn't asking for pity or permission. He is demonstrating that the West can learn from Africa, too. Back in the palace, Traoré steepled his fingers. "Sir," Marie said, checking the tablet, "the comments, it's overwhelming. Finally, someone gets it. Respect, not rescue." Thousands of messages flooded in from across the continent and beyond. The narrative was shifting. African leadership, often painted with broad strokes of corruption or chaos, was now seen through a lens of local empowerment. Traoré stood walking to the window. "We didn't ask for this spotlight," he said, "but now we have a duty." A statement, Marie prompted. Yes, he paused. But not today. Today we prepare. He looked out at the courtyard again. Children, the living proof that the narrative could change. Jasmine Crockett didn't just praise me, he said. She placed trust in what we're building. That trust is sacred. Then let's honor it, Marie replied, understanding the moment's magnitude. This was more than a viral video. It was the ignition of a long-overdue conversation. Traore knew this was about more than Burkina Faso. It was a continent declaring, "We are not waiting to be discovered. We are declaring who we already are." That evening, silence fell over the palace. Traore sat alone, pen in hand, drafting his response. It had to be authentic, not state jargon. Crockett had shown humanity. His reply must too. He wrote, speaking softly aloud. To Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, I thank you not just for mentioning my name, but for recognizing the dreams of our people. This is not about applause. It never was. We do not seek validation from outside. We seek transformation from within. But when someone outside truly sees us as a partner in dignity, we must acknowledge it. He tapped his pen. Burkina Faso's journey is still beginning. We are far from perfect, but what we have is ours, our soil, our stories, our strength. He added, I want every child who hears this to know they come from something valuable. The night wore on. Pages filled, edited, rewritten. By midnight, it was done. Concise, potent, alive with the weight of hope. The next morning, the press room buzzed. Traore entered, dressed in traditional Faso danfani. No teleprompter, just the statement in his hand. Ladies and gentlemen, he began, voice clear, grounded. Yesterday, I was surprised by a speech in the U.S. Congress. A woman named Jasmine Crockett spoke about the work we are doing. He met the camera's gaze. I thank her, not for flattery, but for seeing what many choose to overlook. He paused, the inherent difficulty of their path hanging unspoken in the air. Africa does not need saviors. It needs space to thrive on its own terms. Our work here is not for headlines. It is for the farmer waking up before dawn, for the child walking miles to school. He let the silence hold the gravity. We are not performing for the world. We are preparing for the future. As he stepped down, reporters didn't rush. They stood, processing. The world had spoken, and Burkina Faso had answered. The handwritten message went public, broadcast everywhere. It was the delivery as much as the words, unpolished, honest, human. In markets, villages, universities, people listened. For weeks, Burkina Faso had faced constraints and challenges, but Crockett's words and Traore's reply ignited a dormant pride, a validation long denied. At the University of Ouagadougou, a student forum erupted spontaneously. I never thought I'd hear an American politician say something true about us, one young woman exclaimed. And I never thought our president would answer so simply, so powerfully. In a northern village, a farmer, Cater, told his wife, a hint of weariness in his voice, maybe now, maybe they'll stop seeing us only as victims, but the work is still ours. Global media covered it intensely. Africa speaks, world listens. But the most powerful reactions were local. Messages poured in. Thank you for reminding us our voice matters. I showed this to my daughter. This is leadership. School attendance reportedly spiked. Children wanted to be part of the future the president described. It was a revolution of meaning. While the world clamored, Traore kept his focus local. He declined interviews, holding a town hall in the southern region of Ga instead. We are not building this country for applause, he told the crowd under baobab trees, acknowledging the daily struggles they faced. We are building it so the applause can one day come from within. The crowd erupted, hope mingling with the grit of lived experience. Farmers spoke of needs, but also of dreams. Traore met each one with the same promise. We see you, and we are building with you. As dusk fell in Ga, he sat eating too with his hands among villagers. No cameras, no pretense, just stories, laughter, the smell of earth and fire. He understood. Dignity doesn't descend from policy. It rises from the ground up, built by these people despite the odds. News of Traore's field visits amplified the story globally. Africa's youngest president turns praise into policy, headlined outlets, noting the contrast between the global attention and his focus on grassroots work. Students and youth groups across the continent and diaspora launched campaigns. Jasmine Crockett, pressed on praising a leader facing complex challenges, didn't flinch. "I'm not saying he's perfect," she told a U.S. network. "I'm saying he's trying. With courage, with vision, and with his people. That matters. That should count for something." The clip went viral again. Traore monitored developments from his modest office, surrounded by reports on cooperatives, solar installations, literacy, the real work. Perception had shifted, and in global politics, that held potential, though the pressures remained immense. Across the African Union, leaders discussed replicating Burkina Faso's approach, the honest communication, the community focus. But real change wasn't just in high-level debates or statistics. It showed up in quiet places. On the outskirts of Koudougou, Traore knelt beside children sketching dreams in notebooks. A girl, Adama, showed him her drawing of a water pump and irrigation map. "I want to be an engineer," she said, clutching the paper. "Help grow food, help us keep water when the dry season comes." Traore studied the drawing, then looked into her eyes. "You're already helping," he said gently, "and we are building this country so your dream can grow with it." Captured by a teacher's phone, the image of the president kneeling, connecting with a child's practical dream, resonated deeply. It wasn't a political pose, it was a simple, powerful affirmation amidst the daily grind. At a ceremony marking a year of policy impact, Traore spoke not of numbers, but of the hands and hearts that built them, acknowledging the hardship. "This is not just policy," he said, tears in many eyes. "This is memory. This is dignity. This is us." A boy in the crowd held a shaky sign. "We are enough," the new rallying cry. Jasmine Crockett watched from Washington. "I spoke from my gut," she later said. What he did after that came from his soul. Conversations continued, exploring dignity-based diplomacy, local empowerment. Documentaries were launched, podcasts dissected the moment. But Traore's legacy wasn't in headlines, it was in footsteps. Like Mattis, a boy from Poor in the East, who gave him a folded letter during a visit. "This is to say thank you," Mattis said, "because we are using what you gave us. We won't stop." Traore unfolded the child's scrawl. "Thank you for giving us the chance to be great." He folded it carefully, placed it in his pocket, a quiet promise in his nod. So what did we witness? Not just a compliment or a response, but the potent ignition of a movement. A reminder that leadership doesn't wear capes. It wears dust. It listens. It shows up where the need is greatest, facing challenges head-on, not waiting for permission to care. Ibrahim Traoré answered a compliment by answering a continent's longing to be respected, not pitied. He turned a passing mention into a permanent message. "We are not waiting to be saved. We are building our future with our own hands." And Jasmine Crockett? She used her platform to honor that effort. That's rare. That's courageous. If this story moved you, reminding you that real impact can come from authenticity, share it. Let it remind you, respect is more powerful than rescue. Dignity is louder than charity. Because somewhere a child is sketching their dream and they need to know the world is listening. And if we choose to listen, really listen, maybe we'll remember how to.